a firefighter led a rescue effort in the wake of the hurricane that saved the lives of hundreds of people. New at 10 tonight, the personal tragedy he's suffered since then that's changed his life forever. 10 years ago, Menlo Park Fire Chief Harold Schapelhouman was in the middle of one of the biggest natural disasters in American history.
Living in a dead city every day in New Orleans, it wore on us, because all we saw was destruction.
In September of 2005, we caught up with him as he and his Bay Area water rescue teams launched boats into a flooded neighborhood just outside the French Quarter.
We're out just northeast of the French Quarter. This whole neighborhood is underwater near Interstate 10.
They had no idea what they were in for.
This is the worst.
I've never had a day like that. Since then, I mean, literally, it was probably the most unbelievable day.
He and his team rescued 502 people on that day, pulling men, women, and children out by boat and handing them off to waiting helicopter crews, moving as fast as they could.
What we did over there, we would never do anywhere else. Even one child separated their family is a big deal. You put them in Child Protective Services. There, you just hand a kid off to somebody because you couldn't hold on to them.
Schapelhouman had been to the Oklahoma City bombing, Ground Zero, and the space shuttle crash in Texas, but he had never seen anything like this.
We weren't recovering parts of people or deceased people, which is what we had been doing on every event that we'd ever been to. Suddenly we're in New Orleans and we're pulling people out of attics, out of buildings. I mean, you know, people that would have died had we not come in and found them.
FEMA had placed tight restrictions on media access. Schapelhouman ignored it.
The day we were with you, that we totally broke the rules that day. You weren't supposed to be with us on a boat. We were told there's no news reporters.
But Schapelhouman thought the story was too important. What he and his teams didn't know then was that many of the hundreds of people they rescued and got to dry land still had nowhere to go.
Thousands of people were being put in these staging areas with limited food, water, sanitation, including shade sometimes, or medical attention for people that were sick or kids that were separated from their families.
Some residents were seething at FEMA. Schapelhouman said people threw things at his trucks after seeing the FEMA placards on their vehicles. He ordered his teams to flip the placards over. The other side read, California Office of Emergency Services.
And suddenly they realized, this is the crowd that we're driving through, that we're not FEMA, we're from California. And I have to tell you, Ken, it changed in a second. People were telling us they loved us, they were thanking us for being there.
Later, he learned why there was so much anger.
It wasn't until we all got back that we realized that everybody thought this disaster was an immense failure, and yet we rescued ourselves, just our team, over 1,000 people.
In 2007, Schapelhouman became chief of the Menlo Park Fire District. As the crisis in New Orleans faded, he suddenly faced a new personal tragedy.
I wake up, I'm in a pool of blood, I can't move. I knew my life changed in that moment.
He had fallen off a 16-foot ladder while trimming bushes in his backyard and broke his neck. Almost by instinct, he found himself shifting into first responder mode, coordinating his own rescue.
I'm doing the self-assessment. Self-assessment isn't good. It wasn't a good feeling, but, you know, what am I going to do? Sit there and, you know, cry about it?
Chief Harold Schapelhouman, the 6'3", robust lifesaver, is now in a wheelchair. He may never walk again.
When you're a guy like me needing help, when you used to do everything, it's tough. It's a very humbling injury that, you know, it's not an easy life.
One he's reminded of every time he hears a siren from his firehouse.
A little piece of me will never not be on that truck thinking about how great that part of my career was.
But he has new responsibilities and a new mission.
Making the community better, safer, that's what I do now every day, and I love it, and I'm thankful to be here.
And he's applying the lessons he learned from Katrina in Menlo Park.
The rescuers are very creative people. Just tell them what needs to get done, then get out of the way, and then don't ask a whole bunch of questions later on because they'll pull it off. You may not want to know exactly how they did it.
Schapelhouman says despite his injury, he's moving forward with his life, and that includes remaining on duty as the Menlo Park Fire Chief.